So you have
I
a
was
sport.
gonna say-
No, you interrupted me.
See, no, I was gonna say though, did you see that tweet?
Episode. Don't ever compare me to Nicolas Cage. Gotta keep it original. Oh wow, this is like a 1 second delay.
Yeah,
Boom, boom.
you heard it full focus.
Ooh, you gonna put that in the
You're
episode?
screwed. Don't touch the lens!
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Red Cape Sports. My name is Bird Bouchard. So happy to have you all along with me today for this brand new episode. So, when we were first starting off Red Cape Sports, very often a question that I'd get asked would be, I have this player in mind and I want to go out and buy his card. Is this a good investment? And that's a really difficult question to answer because it's not necessarily to say, yes, this is a good investment or no, that's a bad investment. It's more or less to say like, time the market, right? Because often what would happen, especially last year with Major League Baseball, what would happen would be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would go off and hit like 3 home runs. He'd have like 12 RBIs in a span of just 3 games type of thing. And he'd be really hot. His card prices would go up. And people would message me, hey, should I go off and buy Vladdy cards? Well, no, at that point his cards peaked. Not that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. cards peaked a super high amount. Matter of fact, even after almost winning the Triple Crown and almost winning the MVP, the cards kind of, ended about the same price before the season started. So one of the investment strategies that I typically like to take is, well, honestly, I'm just going to take you guys through what I did 2 months ago. So about 2 months ago, quite literally, we had no idea whether or not Major League Baseball would come back. There was talks of a lockout, talks of, reduced games. It just really wasn't looking good. That to me said, ding, 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 let's save some money and let's invest in baseball cards. And far too often what I find is people try to invest while the season is going on. So for example, during football season, I find a lot of people will buy football cards. It's not to say that that's a bad strategy. However, my ideology and my thinking is try to buy the cards when literally nobody is thinking about that player. So for example, when there was large talks and when there actually was a lockout, right? I was looking at a guy like Ronald Acuna Jr. For a variety of different reasons. This guy was injured, first and foremost, so not a lot of people were thinking of him, and there wasn't going to be a season. Now, I knew that the owners were eventually going to want to play a season, and I knew that the ball players wanted to play a season. So I knew, and again, I didn't know for sure, I'm not saying I did, but I knew it was highly likely that baseball would be coming back again. And of course, I knew Ronald Acuna Jr., as young as he is, and as great of a player as he is, that he would come back healthy and better than ever. Now, so far as I'm making this video being May 1st, I believe he just played his 3rd Major League Baseball game back since his debut. So it hasn't been many games, but he's already got like 2-3 stolen bases. He's showing phenomenal things. Mitch, again, in edit, this is when you're gonna post up his numbers, okay? So you guys can see here his 2021 numbers on Baseball Savant. Basically anything in red means that you're in the 90th percentile. Really, really good. And as you guys can see here, Ronald Acuna Jr. last year was basically perfect until his injury. But you know what? That injury, I knew he'd be able to come back from it. And that to me said, okay, I'm eventually going to buy his cards, but when? And then once the lockout came, that to me was a perfect, desirable option. Another player, shout out to Scotty B Cards, because I know that he was mentioning this on his video as well. I just want to actually give kudos to him because he brought it up. Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols, he's just, I believe right now he's 18 home runs away from 700 career. This guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer all day, every day. And the reality is his baseball card prices were very stagnant for a long, long time. And then he got traded to the LA Angels. This guy's playing with Shohei, he's playing with Mike Trout. You would think that his card prices would do a lot, but it didn't. And this is actually when the sports card market started to boom since the pandemic. But Albert Pujols wasn't playing that great at baseball. And what you guys can see from this chart, again, Mitch is gonna post it up in edit. Honestly, what you guys can see in this chart is once he got traded to St. Louis, the team that drafted him, the team where he was Captain Cardinal for the longest time, the team where he was Mr. Clutch, the team where he won all these awards, accolades, and World Series. That's when his card prices took a major jump. It went up by like 1,000%. There's something about, buying players when they're not often thought of, when you know that they will again be, a big hit. Now, sometimes there's injuries that players just can't come back from. I know in football, ACL, probably not a good injury to come back from. Sometimes there's just terrible, awful things. In the case of Ronald Acuna Jr., I know that this is a guy who's going to want to be in the lineup quite often, basically every day. He's still going to want to steal his bases. He's still going to want to be, a flashy player. And, this is a guy who quite literally just came off a World Series title run. Well, his team did, at least, without him. I still believe his card prices are undervalued, and I still believe that he's a rather good buy. We can talk about Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom's probably one of the best pitchers of our generation. And then he got injured. So no one's really talking about him right now, even though the Mets are playing extremely great baseball. If you look at his card prices, they took a slight dip. Juan Soto is another guy. Again, Mitch, post Juan Soto's number on Baseball Savant. This guy was literally perfect. We just got done showing Ronald Acuna, but, Juan Soto, this guy doesn't swing at any pitch outside of the strike zone. I personally still believe his card prices, although they are massively overproduced in my opinion, they're still really good buys right now. He hasn't been playing to his expectations, and therefore, prices are down. And again, those are actually examples of players currently playing baseball, which is odd. However, like I said, I like to think of guys not currently playing. So in this case, NBA basketball is on, but a guy who didn't even make the playoffs, Kawhi Leonard, Kawhi Leonard has been awfully quiet the last few seasons. But this is a guy whose rookie cards I've personally been picking up. Again, not financial advice, not telling you all to go pick up his cards. But this is a guy who, I believe is probably going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Kawhi Leonard is the real deal. Once he's healthy, he may again win another championship. Even if he doesn't, we see what a guy like Chris Paul does. Again, that's funny because I don't know when this video is going to come out. Maybe Chris Paul does get it done this year. But regardless, even if you don't win championships, your card prices can still do good things. And that's why I believe a guy who already has won championships in Kawhi Leonard can do good things. Guys, the same thing can be said about football right now. The NFL draft is happening, and a lot of guys, quarterbacks specifically, their teams just drafted great complementary offensive tackles or great complementary wide receivers for them to physically throw the ball to. Those can also be good buys. I would typically speaking stay away from that for a little bit because a lot of other people are going to have that ideology, right? Quite honestly, I like to buy right before playoffs, about a month before. So I guess, now that the NHL playoffs are happening, there's obviously still buys that you guys can make and investments that you guys can make. But if you guys are able to do it before playoffs, sorry that we weren't able to put out a video on that, but if you guys were, there's always a handful of guys that pop off. So that's always another good strategy. But most importantly, like I said, I like to think of, is this guy going to bounce back from injury or is nobody thinking of him, right? We saw it last year. Again, I'm going back to baseball because it's very relevant. Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper has always been an MVP quality player. He literally won MVP last year. But the season prior to that, for whatever reason, he was often forgot about. You can say what you want about Bryce Harper, but he's just a phenomenal player. And it proved his card prices did go up by a little bit. So, find a superstar player who's honestly not playing that well and invest in him. And again, another example would probably be Francisco Lindor. Last year with the Mets, he didn't really have a really good season, but I knew, okay, this is a guy who's much better than the quality of play that he's currently producing. So again, you can look at his card prices. Francisco Lindor prices have gone up. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, please go ahead and leave us a thumbs up. It really helps us out to grow the channel and to reach more people who love sports card collecting as yourself. And just a reminder, if you guys are interested in learning more than just what we put out here on YouTube, down below in the video description, there is a link to our Udemy course. Ultimately there, you guys can learn tons of different things on how to collect sports cards, protect them, and ultimately invest in the sports card industry. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Till next time.